Hey y'all, it's Stephen Van Kampen-Lewis, and I'm here once again with William Green. It's been a while
Been a
since we've
while.
done like one of our sort of chit chats about orchids, and today I figure we'll do a Cattleya Rex like focus. And as many of you know, or probably most of you know, William's been working with Cattleya Rex for more than a decade and has accumulated some really great tips and tricks. And he's going to sort of do a mind dump and let us all know the things that work best for him and the things that he's still working on. So good to see you. How are you?
Good to see you too, Stephen. And I want to thank you personally again for asking me to do this. I had a video on YouTube for years that was like, my take on how to grow Cattleya Rex, and then after a while, the I felt like the information was outdated enough or not accurate enough that I was like, oh, I don't feel good about this video, so I took it off. And I've been wanting to do this for a long, long time. So when you sent me an invite to talk about Cattleya Rex, I very appreciative and really had to jump on it. So here we are. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if that's cool.
Yeah, that's great.
There it is. And it says I'm screen sharing. Okay.
I can see
Um,
it. Looks good.
yeah, feel free to jump in. So this Cattleya Rex, by the way, is Inti. It was my favorite of the first group of the first flask that I grew out from 2014. And we'll talk about Inti in a minute here. So we're just going to
Cool.
jump in. Here we go. It was first described in 1890. It was one of the last large flowered cattleyas to be described, and it escaped the Victorian orchid craze because it was basically so hard to get to, and even harder to get back. Like people could go out and find it, but then they actually had to get it back alive to Victorian England, which just didn't work out.
And that
A
was
lot of
pretty much because they had to hoof it through the Amazon, carrying these plants, and then they have to send it probably by way of Pacific all the
Ship,
way
yeah.
around
Well, or
back.
Atlantic. It depends on how they did it. There was no canal in the Panama Canal, so they had to either go around or, yeah. Um, uh, I don't know how to say his name. Jean Linden and James O'Brien both thought very highly of this plant. Here's a couple of descriptions. I'm not going to read them out loud, but these were the first descriptions that were made of the plant, and I don't know about you, but as soon as I saw Cattleya Rex for the first time, I saw a picture of it on Orchid board actually, and it was a French grower who had it,
Hmm.
and I was like, I must have that, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and then as I started looking, I realized that oh wait, nobody has this.
And that's actually pause there for a sec.
Yeah,
That's how
sure.
you and I first started interacting. Actually, what was on Orchid Board,
Yes.
and you were I think your name was Cambria what,
Uh-huh.
and
Whoa,
then
memory. Triple word
yeah,
score.
and then you started showing your Cattleya Rex journey, which we'll get into in a sec, and that was a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I had a thread where when I got the plants, I
Hmm.
posted from day one, and every few months or what, especially at the beginning, I was like neurotic about it, and I was posting like every single day about, every little thing.
And that
But
thread went for
yeah,
years.
that thread is still there, and it's
Yeah.
great because you can see from the day I received them all the way to the day of the first bloom, and it's all there. So it's a great. I don't know what the thread is called, but if you search for Cattleya Rex, and I think my name on there is Migraine Pets. So if you search for threads by
Yeah.
Migraine Pets.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all documented. That's been the whole point, you know. It's like anyway, I wanted to look at some different types of Cattleya Rex. So this
Hmm.
is a variety from Ayacucho. You can see that this is the coloration is more yellow in the top of the lip and then more red in the bottom. You don't have that same color gradient that you have on different varieties. These are from the Peru Floras catalog, by the way. There's also a Rosita form. There's a semi-alba form.
Oh, I didn't know that these had different forms like
Yeah,
these. That's crazy.
they're out there. Oh, and I have them, by the way.
Oh.
Growing them out unless I kill them all. Um, we got some more. The splash form is
Hmm.
got the yellow in the petals there, and you can see less purple in the lip. And then There is a Flammea form as well, and there was actually we're going to look in a second, but there was a Flammea actually just awarded by the AOS last
Oh,
month.
cool.
So different color forms, but generally speaking, Cattleya rex is a naturally occurring semi-alba flower with cream white petals and sepals, and then a colored lip.
And that first one that you showed from
Yeah,
Ayacucho, that's a
yeah.
region, right?
Yes, I'm going to show you the map in a second.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, maybe I didn't order the information in the right way, but here we are. Um, so in terms of the Cattleya Rex awarded by the American Orchid Society, the very first one was awarded back in 1984, which is actually quite late for a naturally occurring labiate Cattleya species. It
Hmm.
got a certificate of botanical recognition, which means it was basically like, oh wow, we haven't seen one of these before. Here's an award. Um, and then Anthony Alfieri, a grower in Delaware, I believe, he got an CCM in 2001 with two spikes of it was a total of 17 flowers. So if you look at the floriferousness of this plant, it's like, wow. I have never seen this many on a spike since.
Hmm.
So Anthony's still out there. I'd love to talk to him and ask him about how this plant got to be the way that it is.
Well, and it's crazy that the first two awards for this species are not quality awards, all right? So we have a
Right?
CBR, and for everybody who doesn't know, a CBR is typically what we give to a brand new species in the judging system, which, jives here with the 1984. It's weird that they didn't give it a quality award at the same time, but I guess you don't have to. And then the next award was a certificate of cultural merit saying, you, the grower, have done a good job, and still no quality awards for,
Hmm.
close to 2 decades of this thing being in the system. It's fascinating.
In my experience, they do not like Cattleya rex flowers when they compare them to other Cattleya flowers because the dorsal sepal reflexes back, the
Mm.
petals reflex forward. Maybe
Hmm.
that's not a reflex, but they go forward. The flower's not flat at all, and as you know, flatness is paramount with Cattleya flowers.
Yeah.
And so then a few years go by, and Cali Rex starts getting some awards, but they're not in the country. So this one that says Silvano Flores, that took place in South America. I believe it was a show in Peru. You
Oh,
can
huh.
also see that that's the Ayacucho form. You can see the yellow tube and the red in the lip without that gradient of red to purple that you see um, in the other form, the Moyobamba
And
form.
in that Savannah Flores, you can see, so when you see that sort of flower that's facing straight into the camera, I guess, the kind of lowest one, it looks relatively flat, but then you look above it to the right and you can see those how those petals are just lurching forward,
Right,
trying to grab you, I guess, and
right.
that kind of plays into what you just said, where it's not flat.
Sure. And it makes sense that they would have better genetics in Peru from the start because this is where that plant is from.
Hmm.
So now we look at the modern day. So if you start in the bottom right corner, you have Macarena and Tommy. These were also two quality awards given out of the country in Peru
Hmm.
to local growers of this species. And then this guy named William Green comes along
Hmm.
in 2021 with the first Cattleya rex to receive a quality award in the United States, and that was this plant, Mayu. And Mayu I grew from flats, and we're still alive. We're still working on culture, but we're still here.
That's really cool
Um,
that you
that was
had it
very
that whole
exciting, by
time.
the way.
Yeah,
Hmm?
absolutely. That's so
That was
cool.
super exciting. The next year, another plant of my collection, Inti, got awarded with a 79 point HCC, and that I have to say that was frustrating because it was a four judge team, and if one of the judges hadn't been there, it would have been an 80. But whatever, right?
I mean,
And
you know, you
unfortunately,
you can take it back if it's got like two or three spikes and get that extra point for that AM instead of having it the HCC.
except Inti died 2 years ago,
Oh, that's right.
and it was my favorite.
Yeah.
So since then, other players have been jumping into the game. So Ben Oliveros at Orchid Eros in
Hmm.
Hawaii. He's jumped in and he has gotten a couple of awards in the past few years. In 2023, Teeple Flares got an award with the yellow flares. You can see that's also an Ayacucho variety with yellow and then just a little red in the lip there.
Hmm.
And then in 2024, last year, the Mirtha Isabel was also from Ben Oliveros. And in my opinion, that plant was underscored as well. If you look, it was like it had a huge amount of flowers
Hmm.
on a really nice plant. So I'm not quite sure how that all works. But yeah, I just feel like the judges don't love Cattleya Rex. Um,
Until that FCC came along, huh?
until they went down to Peru again. And
Oh,
another show, they see this Calyrex Andean Treasure. They gave it 90 points. I talked to, oh man, I'm blanking on the name. But he's a Venezuelan grower, and I said, "Hey, did you see that plant?" I was like, "Did you think it worth it earned that 90 point FCC?" Because obviously, I'm gonna be like super picky about anybody else who gets an award, right?
yeah, yeah.
And he's like, no, he said it was excellent. It was really good. So yeah, there it is. And then just last month in July, Leslie E. got Cattleya Rex Flammea awarded in Ontario. And I believe he said he got this plant directly from, um, I don't want to say the names in case I get them wrong, but he got the plant directly from Peru
Oh, wow.
a couple
And
years ago.
and just to be clear, he's in Ontario, Canada, right? He's close to
That's it.
Toronto.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Which is, growing up there is a whole different set of challenges. So it's
Yeah,
great that he got
greenhouses,
that.
tents. So that's kind of a history in the nutshell of the American Orchid Society and Cattleya Rex. It's really ramped up in the past few years. I'd like to take a great amount of credit for that, for
Hmm.
spurning the interest in this plant, and it
I
deserves it because
I
it's
think it's
just spectacular.
and I think it's fair to take credit. I mean, no one was really growing Rex in the US until you started that thread in Orchid Board, and suddenly everybody's like, "Holy crap, why aren't we growing this more?"
Yeah, it just wasn't easy to find. If you went down to the Peruvian Amazon, you might find these other companion plants growing alongside Cattleya Rex. I'll just let you kind of peruse the list here. But if you look in my collection, I've got a couple of these. I've got Cycnochus cooperi for sure. Love that plant. I would
Hmm.
love to have a Violacea, Kovachii, Luteola, uh, Iricolor. Those are all gorgeous plants. So if you
Yeah.
wanted to create a Peruvian display, all these plants would go right there. And then if we look just where the plant is from, you can see the yellow regions in Peru there are where the populations are found. And you can see on the right side, there's a topographical map of Peru where Cattleya occurs just as the Amazon is rising into the Andes Mountains. So it's
Hmm.
not at the heights of the mountains, but it's at about basically about a mile in elevation, 1,600 meters like that.
Okay. And two very disjunct regions, like you see in the map on the left. It's just those two populations are probably not interacting with one another.
It's weird because you see the mountain chain is continuous,
Hmm.
but there is a little breakup kind of in the middle there. So are there plants somewhere in the middle as well? Maybe. But the Ayacucho version actually comes from that southern region.
It, in your experience in your research, are there enough differences between the two populations that you think they could be different, or is it just such a remote area that there's probably sort of a string of populations that we just haven't discovered?
The flowers look really different.
Hmm.
I I have found the Ayacucho plants that I have to be a little tougher,
Hmm.
and the northern population, which is called the Moyobamba variety, I found them a little bit more delicate,
Interesting.
in my experience.
And there are other species, Cattleya species, with big disjunct populations, like Cattleya dowiana,
Like Daliana, yeah.
and Nobilior also has these huge spaces between its two different populations.
Yeah, I mean, all it takes is a couple seeds blowing a few thousand miles and landing in an ideal environment, and there you have a new population.
That's right.
I put this in bold. Calyrex is an intermediate grower. It will grow warmer. It will not be happy if you grow it cooler than these temperatures. If you go to its hometown of Moyobamba, Peru, like I said, that northern population especially, these are the temperatures you will find pretty much every day of the calendar year.
Hmm.
83 high, 62 low. And um, if you can maintain that consistency, temperature, I think we can say safely that you've got temperature under control.
I mean, that seems like pretty normal standard indoor temperatures, right? Just sort of on a windowsill or in a tank behind me where you can see my cats hanging out on top of,
Uh-huh.
or your house.
Yeah, their home temperatures, and a lot of orchids will be happy in that range.
Hmm.
In terms of precipitation, if you look at the precipitation map here, the growing season I've got in blue, the dry season I've got in yellow, and the bloom season I've got in purple. And that's in the wild. So we got to think this is in the southern hemisphere. This is in the Amazon. This is not in cultivation. But something that's important to keep in mind is that the dry season, they're still getting, 5 to 8 centimeters of rain in the dry season. It's not a totally dry season. Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. That's quite a bit of rain. So you're going from torrential rains
Mm.
in the growing season to frequent light rains, So
Yeah.
basically, Calyrex likes water. It is a water-loving plant. It's a thirsty plant.
Okay.
And
So,
that is why it is such a tough Cattleya to grow, in my opinion, because it actually likes water and needs a lot of it.
and do you find that, I guess we'll get into sort of the cultural stuff a little later, but
Mhm.
does it really like more water than the sort of other cattleyas that we typically grow?
Yeah, we're going to lead into that, but it definitely does not like to dry out for very long.
Mm-hmm.
It does not like that at all. So yeah, in the wintertime, I rate in the wet season, the growing season, regular water fertilizer. We'll talk about fertilizer in a minute. I try to let it dry out between waterings, but it doesn't like to stay dry for very long. This is the tricky part.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the drier season, 4 months after blooming, it still needs regular temperatures like it had, and it still needs regular water, but less often. And
Yeah.
that's just about it. It still doesn't want to dry out for long periods of time. It's not going to be happy. It's not going to be like your Walkerianas that you can leave for a month without watering and they're going to be fine.
If you did
Um,
that with these guys, you'd come back to a crispy plant.
well, what you might see is that the roots might just die.
Mm.
Um, but that still needs more research. Um, here was the kind of the peak of my collection. I had several plants in bloom a couple years ago all at once. Here's what it looks like growing in the wild. You can see it grows in the tops of very large, old, established trees. You're not going to
Hmm.
find these establishing on small little trees. And so deforestation means fewer habitats for these plants to to take advantage of. They grow up in the trees. They like similar light levels to other Cattleyas. McCracken did a study where she established about 300. I don't know if it's PAR or PPFD, but is it PPFD, not PAR? Do you know?
PAR is photosynthetically active radiation, which is usually I guess it's the more common, accurate metric rather than foot candles. We all know foot candles, but it's not as accurate as PAR. So,
Yeah, I need
and
to
I'm
get I
not,
need to get one of those PAR meters.
yeah, and I'm not familiar with the other acronym you mentioned,
PPFD.
PPFD. Yeah.
Okay, well then we'll leave it then. And just in the top corner here, just showing off, this was my Mayu a couple years ago when she bloomed.
I mean, and if you go back, uh, I gotta say, just being able to see something like that in the wild would be so cool.
Yeah,
Um,
and now we have
th
drones,
I was
so
gonna say they must have used a drone or a ladder or something to get up there.
yeah, that's awesome. It's very, very rare in the wild, extremely endangered. When people find it, they collect it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's pretty
Yeah.
much. It's like Phragmopedium bestii. Basically, all the wild populations have been
It's just
completely ransacked.
gone. Yeah.
So this Cattleya follows a pretty typical growth pattern. Growing, it blooms. After it blooms, it roots,
Mm.
and then it rests, which means it doesn't produce any growth, but it still roots during the resting season.
And it needs
It'll root
water
the whole time.
to grow roots. Maybe that's
Yeah.
yeah.
Here's just kind of a basic calendar. For my plants, they tend to start growing right around New Year's.
Hmm.
Um, as the growth completes, you start to see the sheath push through. Once the sheath is complete, you'll see the buds immediately or within a few weeks push up. There's no resting between the sheath and blooming. They bloom in the summer. After they bloom, depending on the strength of the plant, it might try to push another growth that probably won't bloom,
Hmm.
or it'll just start pushing roots like crazy, and you'll just have the whole resting season with no growth, but you'll have active root growth throughout that whole time.
Interesting that it has such a very defined and um as an individual plant gets larger, so some of the other species might start trying to put out these sort of off season or out of season growths a little more often. Is this one just really regular in that even as a larger plant, it's still not gonna sort of deviate from what you expect it to do?
It'll follow this pattern pretty closely, but during the resting season, larger plants or more vigorous plants will push out a second growth.
Okay.
But it
But
will be, in
not
my
always.
experience, it's smaller and it won't bloom.
Hmm.
But if it, yeah, I've never had a second growth bloom.
Interesting.
Then that gets us to seedlings. Most people who are going to find a Cattleya rex these days are going to find it as a seedling. I've grown them in bark. I grow them in these little terracotta pots. I grow them in, sometimes I just dump the whole compote in the bottom of a clay pot like this,
Hmm.
or a more shallow pot like this. And I think they do better when they're all there together. And I think it has to do with moisture. When they're all kind of packed there together. Oh, and maybe you can't see that because I'm screen sharing. But maybe I should stop and just show that real quick.
Yeah, let's see those.
So these guys,
And so that's a range of sizes. That's just kind of straight out of flask, and a few
that's
just
one flask.
exploded. Yeah.
That's about a year or year and a half out of flask, and you
Hmm.
can see that we got some overachievers here, and um, yeah. But I
Oh,
think they do better when they are all packed together like that. When I put them in smaller little pots like this, I don't think they grow quite as fast, and I don't think mm, maybe if I watered more often,
could
because
be.
they dry out really quickly like this. Um,
Interesting. And
but
so that first one with those overachievers. So
yeah,
my eyes look at those really wide leaves. I assume they're very thick and say those look like they could be polyploid, and I would start squeezing them if I were seeing those in real
I
life.
don't know.
But
We'll find out one day. But there's been
uh,
so many plants that I thought were polyploid, and that they ended up having really thin flowers that
huh,
I don't know. It really depends on for me when seeing that first bloom.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I feel honestly that seedlings are a little bit more resilient than the adult plants because they're not so fixed in that grow, bloom, rest cycle. They'll just
Mm,
grow continuously. So you can continuously fertilize and just work on your seedlings, um, and they're going to be fine. When they become adults and then they have this whole bloom that sucks all the energy out of the plant,
yeah.
they have to have that rest. Otherwise, you're going to have problems.
Interesting.
Um, Great way to practice growing, I said about this, but yeah, you do learn a lot along the way.
Were these your first? Was that shot there the first one, first flask that you kind of profiled on Orchid board?
This was the flask that contained NT and Mayu, the first two awarded ones,
Oh, they're such cute babies.
aren't they? This was in 2014. NT actually is, if you look in the jar, The big one coming out here, that was NT.
Oh wow,
That biggest one.
that's
Yeah,
crazy that you know that.
it was a champ from day one.
Huh?
Okay, now here's the thing with Cattleya Rex. It loves to rot. Um, it will sneak up on you really quickly. I suspect that it comes from the roots staying too wet too long,
Hmm.
which you're like, wait, but it likes water. Well, yes, and now we're entering to why is such a pain in the butt to grow? Because it likes frequent water, it likes moisture, too much water, it will rot, and it will rot fast. So
Is
you can see kind of in these pictures here, it starts at the rhizome and it creeps up the bulb and it will take that whole part. It will take the whole plant if you don't immediately remove up to the green tissue.
hmm
Soak it in Physan, solution, like two teaspoons of Physan in a gallon. Pot it in something dry, let it dry out, and pray that it doesn't
and
rot. This plant, by the way, I'm sorry to interrupt. This plant, by the way, is Mayu, which I still have, but
yeah.
I have had to cut pieces off of Mayu so many times because of this problem.
And looking at this, so the photo of your hand there on the right holding it, I mean
Mhm.
that's an almost blooming growth. So I assume that's
I
sort of
know.
late spring.
Yep.
Is that like when that rot typically happens, or can it happen in your experience just kind of anytime?
It can happen anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can happen in the middle of the rest season. It can happen in the middle of the growing season. Again, I never actually completely sure, but I think this one rotted because at the bottom there, you can see that I hadn't peeled away completely the sheaths of growth,
Hmm.
and I think water kind of sat in there and festered. And especially if the water's got fertilizer in it, it becomes bacteria central.
hmm
So I honestly think that these plants need a fan blowing directly on them all the
In
time.
interesting. Do you, sorry, I know this, I know you haven't been growing Dowiana nearly as long, but Dowiana is one of those also sort of reputed, easily rot prone, I guess is the best way to say it, species. And of course, it's closely related to Rex.
Hmm.
Has your experience with Dowiana, or actually, let me rephrase that, has your experience with Rex sort of helped you to grow Dowiana, sort of rot free?
I suspect that Daliana's main issue is that it does not like cool temperatures during the rest. It doesn't like cool temperatures at all, but
hmm
during the rest season, especially, you better not get it less than like 65 degrees Fahrenheit. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just throwing that number out there because I've heard it a lot, but it does not. And so I think you're going to get what Daliana, rot with Daliana if you water it during the rest season and if your temperatures are not warm during the day.
Yeah.
Um, but oh, so far I haven't bloomed a Dowiana yet, and like with Rex, I would suspect that once blooming starts happening, then you're really, really knee deep in the challenge with the plant because that's when the plant has to have its growth cycle respected because
hmm
that bloom takes so much out of the plant. So I am not quite there yet with Dowiana. So far growing it out as a seedling, it's really vigorous. I mean, it's put out they're putting out two growths full size or
Yeah.
each one bigger per year, even as they get larger. So I'm gonna really watch those when they finally do bloom to really, really be careful in that dry season because I believe that Daliana's dry season is more like a Catasetini type dry season.
Yeah, when I grew it in Hawaii, we were sure to give it a really dry winter, and I didn't lose mine until I moved to Texas and left it with a friend on the windward side of Oahu, and the rain over there just killed it, which was a nice Rosita, so that was sad. But yeah, it's really that winter time that Doiana seems to really just give up the ghost.
Yeah, well, yeah. So, and Kelly Rex likes to do that too. All right, here's a nice pretty picture of what the rut looks like after you cut it off. If you cut here and that's what you see, you're not done. You've got to keep going until you got to cut off pseudobulbs and rhizome until you see green all the way through And obviously, every time you cut, you need to sterilize your cutters because if you cut this, and then you cut again, even if you see green, you've just spread all that bacteria into the new cut.
And just
So you don't want to do
smeared it
that.
into an open wound.
Oh, it's not a good thing.
Did you use cinnamon, by the way, when you're done cutting with those?
I do use cinnamon. When I make
Yeah.
cuts, I use cinnamon. I've heard
Yeah.
people criticize it, but you know what? I use it.
Hey, if you found this video at all helpful, please feel free to hit the thanks button down here at the bottom of the screen. Any contributions, like $1 or two even, would be super helpful in getting me to other cool places around the country so that I can film different shows or even back to Brazil. As always, thank you very much. Very much appreciated.
All right, so let's review. We must be close to the end of this thing. Um, with substrate, I have used all kinds of different substrates. Maybe I'll just go ahead and show you now. Well, I don't know what to do. Let's just let's just show you now. Why not? We can go back and forth. All right, so this little plant is mounted on a antler that I found in the forest. I thought, oh, maybe it'll get calcium. So I've got a bunch of Spanish moss hanging on it, but
Hmm.
this is a cross of my first two blooming Rexes back from 2019,
Mm-hmm.
Inti and Kia, those two. And so it seems to be doing okay. Can you see root tips?
Yeah.
You got root tips growing. It's not growing super fast, you know. It's been what? It's been 5 years, you know. So, but it's not dead, so it's growing.
Yeah, it's a cool experiment. And I guess you have its siblings in traditional potting methods that are they
Here are some siblings. These
okay?
guys are in an air cone pot in a medium grade bark mix that I bought at the big box store. It's not fancy Orchiata. I've never used fancy Orchiata. Maybe that's one reason I have problems because I don't use fancy bark. But this is the next generation of those guys.
That looks pretty good.
Um, this is a seedling from Peru Flora that I got when it was this big, a teeny tiny little thing. And this has just, in spite of my less than ideal conditions, this thing has just flourished. Right now, it's in a regular plastic pot with slots along the sides and the bottom, and it's in large grade chunky bark, and it's rooting
That's some
vigorously.
that's some real nice looking root tips there.
Yeah, and if you'll notice, this plant came out of a grab bag that Paraflora offered a few years ago with five different varieties of Cali Rex. Semi-Alba, Rosita, Ayacucho, Splash Petal. There were all these different ones, right? So I don't know what it is, but the purple, I don't know if you can see that the back of the leaf looks very purple.
Yeah.
That is a trademark of the Ayacucho variety. So and
Huh.
like I said, I have found Ayacuchos to be a little more forgiving, a little tougher than the Moyobamba variety, so it could be an Ayacucho, but we really won't know
And you
until it's left.
sent me some seedlings a year ago, I think, and um
It's been a
one of
while.
yeah, and one of the ones that I have has big fat wide leaves and that red throughout it. So I wonder if that's a sibling of that one that's in your hand.
And I'll be interested to see if it does the same for you and is a more vigorous, more forgiving grower than its siblings.
And so the one that I have, to me, I feel it, and it seems like it's a 4N. Do you think that one kind of meets the sort of hard plastic-like leaves that 4N Cattleyas typically have, or is it the same?
I don't know, man. For me, until we see the flower and we see the size and the substance, I can't call that. I really don't
Yeah.
know, man. And then, oh, now here's something interesting. Of course, a lot of my seedlings have got I don't know if you can see like kind of this yellow discoloration and striping and splotching, especially in the older leaves.
Hmm.
So a couple months ago, my local orchid nursery, Fantasy Orchids, had a shipment of Calyrex in that they got from, I believe his name is James Fung.
Okay.
Hilo Orchid Farm, perhaps, could be a nursery in Hawaii. And so I got to see firsthand how a professional grows these things. And let me tell you, his plant looked absolutely fantastic. The little bitty seed leaves are still bright green, not a speck of yellow.
Huh.
You can see each growth has been significantly larger than the last. Oh man, I think I just snapped a couple roots. Oh. And he had it growing in a small net pot in sphagnum.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still in there. I just put it in the bigger cup pot. So I've got it in a net pot now. And of course, the roots are all escaping, which means that they're all going to get snapped off at some point. But I thought it was really interesting to see, a really, really well-grown seedling that's clearly very happy and has gotten everything that it's needed since it was born.
Well, and if it is Hilo actually on the east side of the Big Island, I used to live there, and that those conditions sound the conditions of Hilo sound very similar to the conditions that you described as Rex really liking, or this sort of narrow range of temperatures where it never gets cold and it's rains all year round. So maybe that helps.
I'm sure it does. Hawaii is probably a lot better than Colorado for growing tropical montane plants. What do you think?
I suspect that's right.
And then Mayu, keep bringing back Mayu. Right now, Mayu is in a net pot with granite rock and large bark chunks. So it's a constant experiment. I've grown them mounted. I've grown them in all kinds of different substrates. This one's in a pot that I got at home garden center with no substrate at all. It's just stick it in there.
Huh.
So it's I haven't found anything that I'm like, yes, this is what I will always use from now on.
It's
I'm
a
gonna,
never-ending learning curve.
it's yeah, this is all right. Light, I don't think light is a difficult point. You just basically want to make sure that it's getting a good level of orchid light. You don't want direct sun or anything like that, but bright orchid light. And I have the timer set on 12 on, 12 off because that's what they get all year round.
Hmm.
The variation in their day length is no more than 30 minutes all day
Oh
long,
wow.
all year round.
Okay.
Greater air circulation. I keep the humidity between 60 and 85%. I'm going to skip over real quick to water. Thoroughly and frequently allowing roots to dry completely in between. I suspect this is especially important for adult plants. I think that seedlings, because they don't have that bloom cycle in their yearly go around, they don't need that so much, if at all. But I think once you get an adult plant, you do need to be really, really careful that it does dry completely between waterings. And I say that a little tongue in cheek because I think there are growers out there that grow these very successfully in sphagnum moss.
Mm.
Do they let the sphagnum get crispy all the way through between watering? I don't know. Do you know?
I don't, but I know it's a method I haven't tried, but I've seen people do it really well in dry climates or even in Florida. There's a bunch of Florida growers that grow in sphagnum. It's very thin in the bottom of the pot, and I bet that's the key is that, it holds a little extra moisture, but there's so much airflow in there still that it doesn't create that sort of festering rot prone area that the microbes just go crazy for if you have like
Yeah.
a thick pot
It
of.
still it still dries out, or at least almost dry.
Yeah.
All right, now the fertilizer, we're going to get real technical here, and this is an experiment. That's why there's a star there. So a few weeks ago, Leslie E. posted the most recently awarded Cattleya. He had the Flammea, and it turned into a discussion that was really interesting. And one of the members of Slipper Talk actually submitted this foliar analysis of wild orchid leaves
Hmm.
that shows what percentage of different elements are found in different plants um, from the wild. So this gives an indication of not only what the plants like, but also what there is present in the environment. So,
Lots of calcium, which is fascinating for
yes.
Rex.
So you can see that the two these two plants at the top, the Kovaceae and this other Phragmipedium that I'm not familiar with, they are from different areas of Peru. The bottom two plants, this Vanilla and Cattleya rex, are from the same area.
Hmm.
So if we look at what's common between these two things, we see something that's a little unusual, which is look at the manganese. Manganese in Calyrex 272, 1110 in the vanilla, 1529 in the other two plants. So these immediately
Interesting.
got people's attention.
Hmm.
Potassium's also quite high. And so what that did was basically it caused me to look a little bit differently at how I'm fertilizing, what I'm using. I was using a low potassium fertilizer for a long, long time. Um, and I wasn't seeing the kind of growth that I wanted to see. So this is my new experimental fertilizer mix, and we're kind of it's ongoing. It's an ongoing experiment, but this is what I'm working with right now to see if we can get those greener leaves that I was talking about, those roots that don't abort, those growths that actually go through and don't abort. I've had a big problem in the past year with plants putting out multiple growths that just stop. And then it puts out more growths, and then they stop, and then more growths, and they never actually mature.
Hmm.
I don't know the reason, but I'm guessing that it's a nutrient issue.
Interesting.
So that's
And
why we're playing with that. And by the way, our good friend AI helped me put together these percentages based on what I was using, based on the foliar analysis, based on what other plants, what proven regimens for other plants. And I fully understand that AI could be totally wrong on this, but I had to start somewhere. So here we are.
it's a great starting point for sure. So, how do you create your own experimental fertilizer?
I start with a base of Kalite.
Hmm.
I then add potassium sulfate.
A bunch of K.
Yes. I add, oh, that's funny for a different reason, isn't it? I also add CalMag. I also add manganese sulfate.
Okay.
And I've got, again, I worked with our friend the robot to figure out how much of this to add to get the solution of that. And so mixing fertilizer involves, um, measuring things out. I've got a little scale that shows to the milligram, and I just mix it all up. And the pH of the solution is about 5.8.
Okay. That's kind of the sweet spot.
Yeah,
Um, what is the experiment? How many plants are you testing this on? Or are you just applying it to all of them?
whole collection.
Yeah. So you've got enough experience to know if you see something in the next year, you'd be like, well, that's the one variable I changed. So I know that it's the fertilizer.
Yeah, this isn't gonna kill anything.
Yeah.
Um, but and I did change several things. I changed potassium, I changed calcium, magnesium, I changed I increased nitrogen. I mean, I changed everything. So it's not very scientific. I didn't want to wait and change one thing at a time. I just
Hmm.
changed it all.
Yeah. Just went
Um,
for it.
and just went for it. And we're definitely a month in, maybe even more than a month in. So
Yeah.
I'm not noticing anything that I don't like. Um, and I'm hoping that I'm gonna just see less and less that I don't like.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully this time next year, it'll be like, well, the new fertilizer is cranking out tons of blooms and growth.
Yeah, and it could have just been calcium. It could have just been one of these things,
Hmm.
But I was really feeding them a very lean, lean, lean mix for a long time. And when I moved to the new house 6 months ago, 8 months ago, I also stopped watering them with tap. I stopped watering with tap completely, And it's possible that in my old place, Tap was supplying some stuff that they were no longer getting. And that's
Mm,
why I noticed that things went from not great to even worse. And so that's why I was like, all right, we gotta work on this.
huh, cool.
So that's the experiment. If you want to buy a Cattleya Rex, these are a little outdated. These prices are from a few years ago when they really, really, really were rare and hard to find. Now you can get a seedling. I know that Peter Lynn from Diamond Orchids, he got a bunch of my cross Kia, Inti by Kia, and he is selling. He'll put one at a time on eBay now and then. I've seen him go for more than $100. Um, but they got awarded parents. Why not?
Yeah, that's super
You
cool.
you can also try to you can get in touch with Equigenera. They've got them. Peru Flora's got them. That's where I got all my seedlings for this second round of seedlings, but they're not great at correspondence. And I have heard from people that they never got their plants. So I don't want to
Yeah.
speak badly about Peru Flora because I got great plants from them, but they are not great at correspondence. I can definitely attest to that.
I'm one of those people that has paid the money and then did not receive plants. So I'll buy from them when I go to like Redland or some of these big shows where when they have the tent. And their plants really are beautiful and they have so much cool stuff. And I know this is a weird thing to say, but like you get mislabeled plants from them fairly regularly. But
Uh,
the thing is, you're getting like undescribed species or really recently described species, and accidentally like, oh, I just bought a Coopery. Wait a second, this is not a Coopery. This is Jirai or something else. So there's some good points and bad points to Peru flora, but ultimately the plants are really high quality as far as I can tell.
There you go. I think that's a good way to put it. The plants themselves are great quality if you can get through, if you can get your plants, and if you get what you ordered.
Exactly.
I'm not making a very good case for them, but yeah, I think like what you said, if you go to a big show and they're there, that's the time to buy from them.
Hmm.
And then Orchideas amazonicas as well have adult Cattleya and that you'll see them at different shows and stuff around the U.S. as well.
Yeah, they've got cool stuff.
Here's just a picture of Moyobamba, Peru, where you will find Cattleya rex in the wild if there's any left. And you can see their, in their fountains, they've got orchids in the middle of their, it's like the orchid capital. They have an orchid festival every year in October, and that's a place that I
Wow.
would really like to go one day.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Well, man, that is a lot of information, and
Mic drop.
yeah, absolutely. Like that I feel like, for someone watching this who's like, I really want to get into Rex, that this is like a great base of information for them to sort of take what you've done and the things that you're thinking about and experimenting with and sort of making it their own and hopefully being successful with the species and hopefully in the next 10 years we can get a whole bunch more awards
And
in the
hopefully through
system.
some line breeding done by me and other growers that we're going to get some Rexes that are way more amenable to culture in the US.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know how many degrees these plants are from the wild, but they're generally speaking really, really picky plants. In a couple generations, that can be bred out of them and they can be a little bit more forgiving and a little bit more flexible. I know that happened with Paphiopedilum rothschildianum. The
Hmm.
earlier clones were just absolutely difficult, slow growing, and now they're fast growing, produce five, six, seven flowers on a spike, and obviously when you have plants that are much easier to grow, less expensive, and is easily accessed the pressure on the wild population is decreased as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that when I was in Brazil with Francisco Miranda, he talked about, and he sort of had this whole list of species of Cattleyas that were like, well, we don't really worry about poaching for these ones anymore, but these ones that are kind of new, they're hurting right now. And it sounds
Mhm.
like Rex is kind of hopefully coming out of the poaching danger and as it becomes more common and easily available to purchase.
It's such an iconic and beloved species that it may always be in danger. If you see one in wild, there's a lot of people that if they see it, I want it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Or I can sell it for, you know, hundreds of dollars, and that's a big chunk of money for folks that live out there.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, Stephen. Well, apologies for the long-winded answer to your question.
No, this
I
was
hope
great,
it
man.
helped.
Appreciate it. It's been a while. We've done one of these chats. I'm glad that we were able to do it and specifically focus on Cattleya Rex, which, as far as I can tell, there really aren't a whole lot of growing guides out there. So this is cool.
Yeah, I went exclusively on Arthur Chadwick's The Classic Cattleyas book. He had a tiny little blurb in there, and I'll never forget he had a line in there that said, Cattleya Rex is relatively easy to grow. And that one echoes in my mind even today. But if you are in the Denver area and you would like to see some of my plants, hopefully you will see something at the Denver Orchid Society show and sale happening on the 13th and 14th of September. I've got a Signochus cooperi that, while I don't expect it to win any awards, it's just going to be beautiful. It's going to be
Cool.
spectacular. It's got those coppery red flowers,
Hmm.
and it doesn't have a very long bloom span, just a few days. So it's going to really depend on how that happens. I'm hoping it will, but if not, I might have a couple other things as well in bloom in the show. So come
And
on down.
and even if it does bloom at the exact time, transporting it is a whole adventure where you try not to damage those super floppy flowers kind of whapping all over the place, dumping their pollen as they touch things.
I'm gonna, yeah, get out of the car with pollen stuck all over me.
Yeah, it's funny. All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. And
Yes, thank you, Stephen.
we'll chat soon.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.